Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and I'm going to be doing a Springans deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is a really awesome deck that can XZ summon out some insanely powerful XZ monsters to your side of the field. And it can even fusion summon because of some of the tech cards I'm playing in this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test stand. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Springans Rocky. Springans Rocky is a great 3-of because it can actually get some of your cards out of the graveyard with the ability that if this card is normal or special summon, you can target a Great Sansi, Golgonda, or a Springans monster in your graveyard, except another copy of this card and add it to your hand, which is a crazy good effect, being able to get your field spell back out of the graveyard because the entire deck revolves around the Great Sansi, Golgonda. Now this card shares an ability like a bunch of your other Springans main deck monsters that if this card is in your hand, field, or graveyard, you can target a Springans XZ monster that you control and attach this card as a material to that monster, which is a great effect because it gives your monsters additional XZ materials to use their effects. I'm then playing 2 copies of Springans Brothers. Springans Brothers is a good 2-of in the deck. I did play it at 3, but I've cut it down to 2 with the ability that if this card is sent from your hand or deck to the graveyard, then you can target a Springans monster in the graveyard, except another copy of this card, and special summon it in defense position, which is a great effect to be able to use, but I feel like 2 is totally fine because it's really easy to search this card and get it in the graveyard. And it also shares the ability, just like your copy of Rocky, that if this card is in your hand, field, or grave, you can target a Springans XZ monster you control and attach this card as a material to that monster. I'm then playing 2 copies of Springans Branga. Springans Branga is a really good card that shares the ability, just like Brothers and Rocky, that can attach itself as a material, and it also has a really good graveyard effect that you can banish this card in a Springans monster with a different name from your graveyard to add a Springans card from your deck to your hand, which is really good because you have a bunch of cards in this deck that this card can actually search. And then playing a single copy of Captain Sargs. Captain Sargs is a good 1-of in the deck because it's easy to search this card, and it also has the ability, if this card is in your hand, field, or grave, you can also target a Springans XZ you control and attach this card as a material to that monster. And if it's attached as a material, it gives that monster an additional 500 attack points, which is a pretty good effect. And if this card is on your side of the field, then during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can detach a material from an XZ monsters you control and then target a face-up card on the field and destroy it, which is a good effect to be able to just give yourself a pop against the opponent. I'm then playing a single copy of Springans Pador. Pador is a good 1-of. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card because it actually has to tribute itself to activate its effect, that you tribute this card and then target a Springans monster in the graveyard, except another copy of Pador, and special summon it. 1 is totally fine, but it also shares that ability it can attach itself as a material, which is why I do play this card as a 1-of. I'm then playing a single copy of Supreme Sovereign Serpent Golgonda. This card is a great card because it actually can come out at 3,000 attack points and special summon itself to your side of the field while you control the Great Sansi Golgonda, which is a great effect just to be able to instantly special summon out a 3,000 attack point monster to your side of the field, with also built-in protection that if the Great Sansi Golgonda on the field would be destroyed by card effect, then you can banish a monster from your graveyard instead, giving you a little bit of protection for your Great Sansi. I'm then playing 2 copies of Spriggan's Kit. Spriggan's Kit is a good 2-of in the deck because it actually helps us get our branded cards out of the deck with the ability that if you have a fusion monster that mentions a Fallen of Albaz as a material on your field or in the grave, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summon, then you can add to your hand one of your branded spell or trap cards that's banished in your deck or graveyard, and then place a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Now I'm actually not playing branded fusion in this build. I'm actually playing Branded and High Spirits, which is a really good card as a combo piece in the deck that this card is actually going to be able to get to, which is really, really nice. I'm then playing 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is a really good card that's basically a walking super polymerization, which is absolutely insane because we have some really good cards in the extract that this card can summon. I'm then playing a small Dogmatica package with a single copy of Dogmatica Ecclesia, which is really easy to summon to your side of the field, especially if there's a monster that was special summoned from the extract on the field. And if this card is normal or special summoned, then you can activate the effect to add a Dogmatica card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. But it locks you out of the extra deck for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine. You just make your extra deck plays before you summon this card. I'm then playing a single copy of Fleur-de-Lis, because Fleur-de-Lis is the card you're usually going to be searching off your copy of your Ecclesia, and this card is just an overall fantastic card in the deck to have as a walking negate in the deck. I'm then playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to make sure that the opponent's not touching the deck while we're going in for all of our plays, which is really, really nice. I'm then playing 3 copies of Psyframe Gear Gamma. Gamma is a great 3 of in the deck because it basically has the ability that it's going to stop hand traps, and the majority of the time when we're playing cards, we actually don't have a monster on the field. So Gamma can give us a lot of protection from hand traps when we're searching the deck with our spell cards, or even getting our monsters off the field to resolve effects, which is really, really good. I'm then playing a single copy of Driver for the Gamma so I can go into my copy of Psyframe Lord Omega to rip an additional card out of my opponent's hand, and you have to play Driver to resolve the effect of Gamma anyways. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really important in the deck because you're trying to get to your Great Sand Sea as quickly as possible. We have plenty of ways to search it, but Terraforming is just a really good card overall to help us get to our Great Sand Sea. I'm then playing a single copy of Called by the Grave because I really don't want to get hand trapped as I'm going for my searches in this deck. I'm then playing 2 copies of Nadir. Nadir is here to search out your copy of Ecclesia, which then will also send a Dogmatica or a monster from the extra deck to the graveyard, which is really, really good because we have plenty of Nadir targets and Dogmatica punishment targets in the extra deck to send to the graveyard, which is really, really good. I'm then playing 2 copies of Branded and High Spirits. Branded and High Spirits is a really good 2 of in the deck, which is what I'm actually searching off the Springans kit because it's a really good card that you reveal a monster in your hand and send a level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with the same type that monster or the same type that has 2500 attack or defense points, and then you can apply this effect that you discard the revealed monster, and if you do, you get to add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that lists that card in its text from your deck to your hand. And during your end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand, and you can only use 1 Branded and High Spirits effect per turn and only once that turn. This card is really good to get you your copy of Fallen of Albaz while also getting one of your Springans monsters to the graveyard by sending your Iron Dash from the extra deck to the graveyard, and then when your Iron Dash is in the graveyard, it will actually activate its effect to get you a Spriggan's monster, which is really, really good, which is why I play this card as a 2 of. I did actually consider playing this card as a 3 of in the build with just how well it works in this deck. I'm then playing 3 copies of the card that this entire deck revolves around, and that's going to be 3 copies of the Great Sand Sea Golgonda. This card is absolutely insane. It has the ability all Spriggan's XZ monsters you control gain 1,000 attack points. And you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that if you control no Spriggan's XZ monster, you can discard a Spriggan's card and then special summon a Spriggan's XZ monster from your extra deck just instantly to your side of the field, which is why all of our main deck Spriggan's monsters, except for Kit, can actually attach themselves as a material to your Spriggan's monsters, which is really, really good. And if a face XZ monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, which they do actually leave the field by their own card effects usually, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and it can't attack for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field, which is a pretty good effect. I'm then playing 3 copies of Spriggan's Watch, which is a really insane card in the deck that lets you add your Great Sand Sea Golgonda from your deck to your hand. And if you already have Great Sand Sea Golgonda in your field spell zone, you can add a Spriggan's monster from your deck to your hand. And if you do, you get to send a Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard, essentially turning this card into a Foolish Burial and a Rhoda all in one card, which is really cool. I'm then playing 3 copies of Spriggan's Booty. Spriggan's Booty is a really cool card because if a face-up XZ monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, which your copy of Explorer will use its effect to bounce itself off the field, then you can target 1 effect monster that your opponent controls, and neither player can activate that effect monster's effects on the field this turn. And you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to activate a Great Sand Sea Golgonda directly from your deck or graveyard, which is another reason to play this card as a 3F, because you want to get to your copy of your Great Sand Sea Golgonda as quickly as possible in this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, I'm going to be playing a single copy of Spriggan's Interluder. Interluder is a good one of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card because it has a really neat effect, but you can search it super easy that when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can return a Spriggan's XZ monster you control to the extra deck and then apply one of these effects to negate that effect or special summon a level 8 monster from your graveyard, which you're usually just going to negate the effect with this card. And if a face-up XZ monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, again, like your copy of Explorer bounces itself off the field, then you can make all monsters that your opponent currently control lose 1,000 attack until the end phase of this turn, which is a pretty good effect to help you get over some really powerful monsters that your opponent might have. We're then playing a single copy of Dogmatic Punishment, which is just a really good card to be able to pop cards on the field while also getting some of our monsters in the extra deck into the graveyard, like your copy of Elder Entity Nist, which will give you an additional pop, your copy of Titaniclad, which will give you an additional search, or your copies of your Iron Dash, which will give you also additional searches of your Spriggan's monsters, which is really, really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Spriggan's Exablower. Exablower is a crazy powerful boss monster that just takes any 2 level 8 monsters to make it, or you can make it with your copy of Great Sand Sea Golgoganda. And it has the ability that you can choose one of your opponent's monster zones or spell and trap card zones and detach any number of materials from this card, and if you do, destroy the same number of cards your opponent controls in that chosen zone and in adjacent monster zones and spell and trap card zones. And then during your opponent's turn, or during your opponent's main or battle phase, quick effect, you can banish this card until the end phase, and you can only use each effect this card once per turn. This card is really, really good because by just detaching a single card, you can pop a card, say right here, detach a second material, pop the card beside it, detach another material and pop the card beside that, and then pop the monster in the extra monster zone, and then pop the monster below it. So you basically get like this AoE effect that you get to pop bunches of cards all around your other monsters, which is kind of a neat effect. I really like that because it's super unique, and there's not a lot of cards in the game like that you're going to get those really, really interesting, like almost like AoE effects that you dropped it right there, and then all the other cards around it get destroyed as well. We're then going to play a single, or we're actually going to be playing 3 copies of Spriggan's Merrymaker. Merrymaker is the card that you're going to be summoning out of the extra deck first in this deck because it's just super, super good. That if this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can send a Spriggan's monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is going to be your Spriggan's brothers, to be able to use its effect. It also has the ability that during your opponent's main or battle phase, quick effect, you can banish this card until the end phase. Then, if you banish this card with 2 or more XZ materials, you can also send a fusion monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that lists a Fallen of Albaz as a material, which is a pretty good effect to be able to get your copies of your Iron Dash out of the extra deck into the grave. I'm then playing a single copy of Garganta X to be able to search additional machines in the deck, which is really good in this particular build. 1 copy of Drill Driver because you can throw it on top of a copy of Merrymaker so it has some attack points, which is really nice. 1 copy of Double A Zeus just to board wipe the field just in case you need it. 1 copy of Psyframe Lord Omega, which is a great card to be able to summon off your copy of your Gamma Driver to be able to rip an additional card out of your opponent's hand, which is actually a really nice combo, because if you're going first and your opponent throws a hand trap at you, you're going to negate it with your copy of Gamma, then make your copy of Omega and rip an additional card. So they're going to start before they draw their first card. They're already at 3 cards, which is really, really good. We're then playing a single copy of Mirror Jade because it's pretty easy to make in the deck, especially with your Walking Super Poly Fallen of Albaz. You can actually get rid of your opponent's monsters and summon this card. If they control a Fusion, Synchro, XZ, or Link monster, you can just normal summon out your copy of Albaz, discard a card, and then make this card with an opponent's monster, and you can search your copy of Albaz super easy in this deck. And then playing a single copy of Lubellion, just in case I want to make my copy of Albaz, or my copy of Mirror Jade, even faster in the deck, which is really, really nice with the copy of Albaz and a Dark monster, which is pretty easy to do in this deck. I'm playing 2 copies of Iron Dash. The only reason I'm playing Iron Dash in the deck is because of its last effect, that you can, it has the ability that during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, then you can add to your hand or special summon a Spriggan's monster or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck, which is the main effect that you're going to be using on this card. You usually don't summon it to the field because you can summon out other monsters, but it's really good to send to the graveyard with your copy of Mirror Jade, Nadir, or any of the other cards in the deck like Dogmatic Punishment to be able to use its last effect with your copies of your Spriggan's monsters. I'm playing a single copy of Titaniclad just in case you want to send it to the graveyard to get your copy of Dogmatic Punishment or your copy of Fleur de Lis, which is really, really good. And then finally, a single copy of Elder Entity Nist to pop cards on the field when you send it to the graveyard off of your copy of any of your cards that send monsters from the extra deck to the graveyard. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with Springans before, you definitely should give the deck a try. It's actually relatively budget to pick up, which is really nice about this deck, and it's just overall a great deck to be able to play with. And I really wanted to work on a way to actually play the fusion monsters and tie in Ecclesia, Fallen of Albaz into the Springans deck, and I finally figured out how to do it, and I'm really excited to show you that. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.